First of all, thank you everyone for being here today and for all you're doing to fight this disease. It's obvious why we're all here today, to support the most rapid clinical application. The most rapid clinical application, as Nikki said, every hour makes a difference, to immediately improve the survival of patients with pancreatic cancer and to early detect, prevent, and cure, I put the word cure twice in here, this disease. As Roger says, if not us, then who? Now this tournament brings back many memories. The first tournament, Roger handed me a microphone while my feet were in water because it was raining. It was a highly wired microphone. I never told him I did get a shock that day. But it hasn't stopped me from taking things from Roger, and I appreciate it. Many special memories, many special memories. But also this classic brings us back together to honor the memories of so many who have lost their lives to pancreatic cancer. We honor many here today, many of our friends, associates, family members, and many more, so many vital people. And the news in the last few months has not been good, no question about that. But we're also here to fight for those who are surviving and fighting pancreatic cancer, because the number of survivors is growing. This year is a very special year because we have some great news, and this great news was made possible by the very early donations from this Sina Magowitz Golf Classic with seed funding for the basic science discovery and funding for support of the initial work of our pancreas cancer research team. I want to give credit to those who really are doing the work: our pancreas cancer basic research team, our TGen clinical research team, and the PCRT, pancreas cancer research team. What I'm going to report today could never have been done without your support and these individuals. The pancreas cancer research team is the SWAT team against pancreatic cancer, and I'm going to ask my colleagues who come from 45 different institutions in 11 different countries. So we say the sun never sets on the pancreas cancer research team. Somebody's working on it 24 hours a day. And here they are. I would like to ask everyone from all our teams to stand up and be recognized for the great work that you're doing. Please stand. It's great to see so many who've come in for the meeting we had yesterday to review progress and what we're going to be doing in the future. Now, the basic laboratory discovery that you supported came from molecularly profiling patients' pancreatic cancers that were taken directly from patients. And you'll recall on your right here is that these tumors, when they're in the liver or anywhere else, they're surrounded by a lot of scar and fibrosis. And these pancreatic cancers hide in that scar. And there's a lot of scar. And as you can see, the pink things here are really the tumor cells, but everything surrounding them is scar from all kinds of inflammation. You can imagine this prevents delivery of drug into that tumor and also keeps your immune system away from the tumor. So the scar is part of the major problem. Now, our technology back when this tournament started wasn't too good. As you can see here, that was the maximum technology we had at that time. But we were able to find a special target in that pancreatic cancer called SPARC, secreted protein acid-rich in cysteine, strongly associated with that scar or fibrosis, and it attracts albumin. It's really a trap for albumin, also described by Dr. Infante from Johns Hopkins. There was a chemotherapeutic agent at that time which interacted with SPARC. It was already approved for women with breast cancer, and it was called nanoparticle albumin-coated Paclitaxel. The albumin coating would bring it to the SPARC, otherwise known now as Abraxane. So this albumin shell is really a delivery that targets the SPARC in that pancreatic cancer scar. So based on that finding of SPARC in patients' pancreatic cancers, we put together this Abraxane with another agent that improves survival, which is called Gemcitabine. And you'll recall, Roger, December 2006, we reported at this particular tournament that actually we had patients' tumors really shrink. And this was, we said, a darn good lead at that time. But RM, Roger Magowitz, came up afterwards and said, you know, this is something different. I think you'll remember that. This is something different. So with Ramesh Ramanathan and the Hopkins team pictured there, and an investigator on the right from Spain, Dr. Hidalgo, we published this information. And we published the fact that you could actually have lung metastases that would disappear. You can see the circles there. The tumor went away. And tumor in the liver that went away. This is the first time we had actually seen complete regressions of patients' cancers, pancreatic cancers. And we reported at that time, I'll just go to the bottom line, that we had good survival. And for the first time in history, 2-year survivorship. And so we were extremely glad. But as you know, in medicine, it's good to report it one time, but it has to be reproducible. And so what we did for the gold standard is a phase 3 international trial of the combination of this particular drug, these two drugs born right at this tournament, versus the standard of care, gemcitabine. And we had to have an overall endpoint of survival with 861 patients, which were enrolled by April of this year. And of course, every day chomping at the bit to get these final results. But this was multinational in lots of different countries by hundreds of institutions. And you can see here that we were very glad to report that Abraxane demonstrated improvement in overall survival for patients with pancreatic cancer. Roger and I had a little discussion a few weeks ago, and we had the results, and I said it's going to be pretty hard to get up here and if this trial is negative. And thank God it was positive, and thank you for the support to make this happen. Now, I want to put this in perspective for everybody in the room. I've made a list of all of the trials that have ever been done in patients with advanced stage 4 pancreatic cancer since 1990. To put it in perspective, how many have ever been positive with an improvement in survival? So let me show you. The latest one reported just 2 weeks ago, just 2 days after ours, no. Next one, no. Next, no. Yes, no. Next, no. Next, no. Then there's a yes. That's with the drug Tarceva. Another one, no. No, no, no. Yes, that's the FOLFIRINOX, another active regimen from France. Then no, 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 no. Yes, the original trial we did with gemcitabine. No, 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 no. So in summary, in the history of this research, only 3 out of 33, 9%, have ever impacted on survival. But the regimen born from this Sina Magowitz Tournament Classic has done it. Now here are some of the people who have benefited from this regimen. There are many more, all stage 4 patients. Many are doing very well. Some for long, long periods of time, approaching 5 years now. And this combination also has been used to make inoperable patients operable. So no cancer in the operative specimen. So one of our new tactics here is patients with a little earlier pancreatic cancer is to apply the Abraxane and gemcitabine to earlier stage disease so we have that chance. That's what happened in breast cancer, where people had the earlier detection with mammography and then applied effective chemotherapy, and that's why the mortality for patients with breast cancer has gone down. So anytime we have an active regimen, applying it earlier is a huge help and has an impact on mortality. And why did our phase 3 trial demonstrate an impact on survival when so many others hadn't? Because of the science. It's pure and simple. It's the science. Because of the initial support, the seed money from people in this room. Now, the follow-up of this advanced against stage 4, we got to follow it immediately. So we've profiled 1,024 patients' tumors, and we found actionable targets. We performed whole genome sequencing, 3 billion base pairs, as Victor will tell you. That's a big job. And found, because of your support, these different targets. He'll go into it in more detail. But you can see here we have lots of good leads to go after. And with the funds from this tournament, just briefly, we're planning these 3 clinical trials with Abraxane gem and adding on another drug called platinum, because these cells have trouble repairing their DNA. They can't repair the DNA damage. To decrease the stroma, to decrease some of the DNA abnormalities, and what we're trying to do is simplify these cancers so they're more vulnerable. We're treating with a new agent called 5-azacitidine. Some people call it manicuring the DNA to make it easier to actually hit, and adding that to Abraxane gem. And then finally, since we have good success in shrinking patients' cancer, how can we keep it shrunk? And we have a new combination of TORC1, TORC2 inhibitor we plan to start with the proceeds from this tournament. We've also used the support from the Sina Magowitz Golf Classic as leverage for other grants. You can't underestimate how big this is to generate more science so it can be applied. And that's how we got the Stand Up to Cancer grant, cutting off the fuel supply, which you remember was a major grant shared by these great institutions, and I'm going to go back one because they're all over the world, Hopkins and Penn and Memorial Sloan Kettering and the Salk Institute in Princeton. And what I'll show here is that this team has found a unique way that these cancers survive. With Jeff Draben, a great surgeon, doing detailed timing studies at Penn and Hopkins, and the metabolomic team from Princeton, Dr. Rubinowitz, Dr. Kamphorst. There's an incredibly important finding as to why these fuels, why people lose weight. And the reason it is that these tumors are out there running on fumes. They need nutrition. And unfortunately, they're so starved, these tumors, that they actually revert to what we're calling an ancient eating method called macropinocystosis, like the slime mold does. Slime mold, this one is called the dog vomit slime mold. I guess you can tell why. It just grows out, it takes in everything, and it just uses what it wants and spits the rest out. Or the Venus flytrap. Takes the whole fly in, eats what it wants, discards. So we're working on a way to stop this ancient eating and have several good leads. Now finally, we all know that the best way to cure cancer is don't get it in the first place. Prevention. Catch it very early, early detection. And as Victor will tell you, he's looking for the genes that cause this, so we might be able to do that. We have 2 major efforts in early detection and hopefully prevention: blood tests and special scans. Remember I said last year that there's evidence now from Victor and others at Hopkins that this tumor can take 21 years to develop. Not 3 years, 21 years to develop. What does that mean? That means we might have hope for screening to prevent pancreatic cancer and a time with a blood test to detect it early. Maybe some lifestyle changes, maybe a prevention agent like metformin, but certainly a possibility of prevention. Progress in early detection. My colleagues Hyung Han back there, Ramesh, and Fred Zerhausen from ASU are working on ways of heating blood to determine, because sometimes, as you know, people have said, gee, a dog had picked up that the person might have cancer. There are things in the blood that can be boiled off that can be detected. And we're working on another new method, again based on work that Victor has done, on using plasma DNA, and we're ready to test that plasma DNA now for early detection. You can see, depending on the stage of a particular tumor, you get more on these posts. We're looking at methodology to detect pancreatic cancer as early as possible, but also to determine right away, is a person responding or not? And this is Dr. Ron Korn's work, the RADAR, Rapid Detection and Assessment of Response. If something's not working, let's find out right away, let's change. And because of the Abraxane gem, we now have something to change to. And also we're able to, with new textural imaging, really invented just a few weeks ago, one can image now ahead of time, even when the doctor says we got it all, you know whether or not the person has liver metastases, and before you can see them by this new software technology. So in conclusion, we're glad to be able to stand up here today and say, loyal supporters of this effort, we have progress. Improved survival for people with advanced pancreatic cancer. But we won't forget our fellow citizens who continue to lose their lives from this disease. Thank you for your support.